we discussed yesterday that we'll see under other operating expenses to move the SIP and Saver expenses, or sorry, the net revenue cost from SIP and Saver to the CAO's budget for for that initiative at the amphitheater.
Okay, Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship. This is, underneath this budget is where we move the TV station. It's not under this budget? Next one, okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council? If not, then we'll move on to the next one, which is council services.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, on page 157 presents the council services budget. Really, not much has changed over prior years. Of course, we include the salaries and benefits for the 7 members of council. Salaries and benefits in this department is 35%. Earlier this year, I did bring a report to council talking about the elimination of the 1/3 exemption. That is expected to come into play into 2019. And if you'll recall, that cost will be an incremental cost in this budget center of about $46,000. And we will include that going forward in the 2019 budget, should council give us that direction to do so. In 2018, there's 2 changes that I just want to highlight, and then we'll talk about the professional services that Councillor Dunn just brought up. We have moved, like Paul had mentioned, the fireworks from this budget to library and culture, just for budget purposes, kept the same dollar amount. And is still the barge and all the fireworks for Canada Day celebration. The other increase here is in operating expenses, and that is a community event for the Windsor Symphony Orchestra to celebrate at the Point Pelee National Park 100th year celebration at Leamington's amphitheater. That is really part and parcel of the grant request as well from the Point Pelee Advisory Committee to prepare a piece specific for Point Pelee National Park. Also included in this budget, and I think we have some questions on that, is the professional services or contracted services for CFTV to air our council meetings.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld. Oh, okay, all right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see under grants to nonprofits, you've rounded it up to 200,000. And the number on page 166 stands at 161. So you've given us some wiggle room, I'm hoping. No, rat.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that 200,000 relates to council's matching program for the Bank Theatre. So you'll see there's the contribution from the reserve, which comes from the Collins Estate. So there are no additional grant monies included in the 2018 budget. Those, and I think through our discussions here, even as we were going through our budgets the last day or so, we may look to consolidate those grants so it is easier for council, because they're dispersed currently. Some are in general government, some are in library and culture. So we may some are in tourism. We may look to just transfer that going forward in 2019. So council will have a better idea, and the number will exactly tie to that schedule.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld.
The last paragraph that talks about the Windsor Symphony Orchestra, this is something that Councillor Hammond kind of asked the question yesterday, and I didn't want to get ahead of ourselves, but as Sheila Wisdom had indicated, that the representatives from the Windsor Symphony Orchestra have already attended at our amphitheater, been up on the stage, we've measured things out, and that's because we are looking at a celebration of Point Pelee National Park's 100th birthday on June the 30th. Originally, when I was speaking with the Windsor Symphony, they had talked about a half orchestra, and I said, we have room for the whole orchestra. Tell me what it would cost to have the whole orchestra come down. They wanted to see the site. What we are discussing is, as it relates to the Point Pelee National Park's commissioning of a piece, the first time that piece would be played down at Point Pelee National Park by the Windsor Symphony, a smaller group of the symphony. But that piece would also be played on June the 30th as part of their concert. And what we're looking at is the symphony bringing to Leamington the Canada Day concert, which has a number of modern pieces that are recognized or recognizable by the average resident. Music such as the Hockey Night in Canada theme, Star Wars themes, those sorts of modern pieces, and that will be the concert that will be down at our amphitheater, and it's intended to be free of charge. So I couldn't speak too much to it yesterday until we get to this budget, but that's what that $20,000 is for. Given that Point Pelee National Park is our largest tourist attraction piece in Leamington, and we have close working relationship with Point Pelee National Park, I thought it was appropriate that we throw a proper birthday party the day before Canada Day that would bring our Windsor Symphony down here and play that piece that is being commissioned to be played.
Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship. So now can we get to this, the TV station? This is part of this budget here, right? No, I just have a lot of residents come to me regarding the not being able to get the services over, their kids can get them in Ottawa, but they can't get them here. The services, they don't carry the different TV Bell or the other stations too costly, and they can't get it over the over the antenna. And that's the local council meetings they want to see, and this has been ongoing for many years, and they're upset about it, and with due reason. So, how I know you were negotiating that, Peter, as to services rendered and what the portion of that is, but we need to get that back up for our residents.
I'll defer to Ruth on this because she's been working a little more closely than.
As you'll recall, last year we entered into a contract for service with South Shore Broadcasting. And as part of that contract, there was a reduction in the amount that we were paying, which is now based on an hourly rate for the time that they are here taping the council meetings and then subsequently broadcasting those meetings. So the over-the-air transmitter is still not approved through Industry Canada. I did talk to Tony Vidal yesterday, and he did indicate that they're in the final stages of that, so they are hopeful that that will be up and running in the new year. However, that's the amount of assurance that I can give you. So we are still operating under our contract for service, and we are hopeful that that will be up and running in the new year.
Okay. Go ahead.
Further to that, so then if these services so much for the actual hourly for doing the taping, but also getting it out there, what is the reduction in actual monies that they don't receive if our constituents are not getting their services?
The reduction is 10%. The hourly rate is $250, and it's billed quarterly. So the contract does indicate that the broadcast is the over-the-air transmitter. That's based on the tower. Cable to Leamington and Kingsville. Internet protocol television in Cottam, Woodsley, Bell River, and Lakeshore. Satellite to Bell subscribers, and also online over the CFTV YouTube channel. So it would be available to people outside the region through the YouTube channel.
Okay. Mr. Neufeld.
I understand your question, and I understand the frustration, but we have to also remember that we don't have a lot of community television organizations beating down our doors to come and video this and get it out. We would like to see it get back to where it used to be, but we don't even have current media here recording our meetings. So we are trying to work with this service provider. We understand your frustration, but we also have to recognize that this is a unique situation for us, and we're grateful that they are willing to come and do this work for us. Even as it stands, we do want to see the full menu, though.
Further questions? Oh, Deputy Mayor, sorry.
No, it's okay. But is there not a point in time where you have to draw a line in the sand and say, if we're not going to get what we've signed up for, we'll be done? I mean, it's all well and good, we don't have anybody else, but we're paying for something we're not getting. And we're only getting part of it. And I'm telling you, the people that speak to us out in public about not getting it on TV are numerous. So, I mean, maybe we need to take a tough stance. I don't like to do that because I think this keeps us all honest, keeps our people informed. But if they're not getting the service, then why do we keep paying when it's part of a service? I mean, if we only partially cleaned the streets, we certainly have people clamoring at our doors. So to my way of thinking, we need to say, even say that if it's not fully up by the middle of February, then we have to renegotiate this contract or bring it to a close.
Our contract is for services, so the services that we are not receiving, the contract has already reduced the amount that we're paying them for that reduction. In other words, we're not paying the full contract and only getting part of the services. We're only paying for the services we're receiving. So there's already been that reduction. If we are to say, well, if you're not up by February, then we're going to have to stop the contract, we won't even have YouTube, we won't even have cable, we'll have nothing out there. I don't know what the answer is. We're pushing them as hard as we can, and the disincentive is that we're not paying them the full up on the contract. They just haven't found a way to get us the over-the-air presentation.
Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship. And now, I'm not an expert with all the things they have to do, and I know there's a lot of, I know they have a lot of equipment and a lot of stuff they do, and they do provide some services. But when it comes to the cable, that antenna, I understand, is that also sometimes it kicks out because we don't have the antenna as well. So that you're not getting 100% service on that. It's only on the bell that you're getting the 100% service. So we're taking that into account as well.
The 10% reduction is applied. So it was 10% off if they do not meet any of the criteria. The only option that I can provide council, and I don't know what other service providers are out there, would be to RFP the service and see what other providers can give to the council. And if that's your direction, that's certainly what we can do.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, I'm just thinking back on all the years we paid $16,000 for this, and we got the full shot. Now we're paying 20, and we're getting a portion of it. And I appreciate this service. I think it's fantastic, but also we're not getting it. And that maybe there is a reduction, but we paid $16,000 for a lot of years, and now we're at 20, and
Councillor Verbeke, do you feel comfortable discussing this? No? Okay. So when we were paying $16,000, I don't think we were getting the internet YouTube service. I don't think we were getting a number of the things that we get now. I know where you're coming from. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that comparison maybe isn't fair either, because with the 16 grand, we had them here and going across the airwaves through the antenna. I don't think we got all the other stuff. Now we're getting all the other stuff, but not getting the thing that we really want, right? So, I know.
But I don't care if people in Ottawa see us or not. I want the people that live in our town and
Yeah.
vote for us or don't vote for us
Yeah.
to see it. You know,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I had a cousin in Vancouver that saw it. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, I get that all the time. Yeah.
So to me, I want this over the air. So my little old ladies who don't have YouTube and don't give a fudge about YouTube that they can get it. You
Yep.
know, because really, that's who's complaining to us.
Yep.
Are the.
Understood.
Yeah,
I-
okay.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that there are differences. But Ruth?
I just want to be clear as to how much we've paid to South Shore this year, and it will be significantly less than 22,000. The contract indicates that that's the maximum, and because it's based on an hourly rate, as you'll see, the actuals for 2017 at the time of printing budget were 9,000. That was really, we had paid up to September at that point, or close to September. So you're still going to be far less than the 22,000, which is the maximum.
Mr. Neufeld?
I think it's also important to remember that what we had been doing previously was providing the money through a grant. We really had no control over what services they were providing for anything. Last year, we said, wait a minute, this isn't so much a grant as a fee for service, and that's what's allowed us to get control. And that's maybe why we are more aware of what we're not getting, because we've taken control of this and put it into a contract.
Councillor Hammond?
Mayor, thank you. A comment. I mean, the fact that this is being taped as we speak, I'm sure that they're going to be well aware of our comments. And further to that, I think that it's to their advantage with respect to subscribers to get this system up and running and get the tower built and get their approvals so that they can broadcast this over there. So hopefully they are working on it, and I'm sure the messages being sent here right now will help them along.
Okay. If nothing further, then we have Ms. Percy with a recommendation ready again.
That the budget for the Office of the CAO for the 2018 year be adopted.
Looking for a mover, Councillor Hammond, and the Deputy Mayor supports. Discussion on the motion, on all in favor, and carried. So, before everybody takes off, we still have the BIA budget to kind of go over. We're a little confused in how we're handling all that, but we definitely have the grants to be discussed, which could affect the BIA budget. So I'm just going to have a motion to adjourn for 15 minutes. 15 minutes, okay. Moved by Councillor Rubicki, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. All in favor of the motion and carried. We'll call this meeting back to order. Councillor Jacobs. Yeah, I just turned on. All right, so what we're going to do is go through the grant requests one at a time, and at the very end of moving those, then we'll look at the BIA budget and make our decision there as well. Mr. Neufeld.
And as council is going through this, you'll note that there are some administrative assumptions and recommendations. In other words, the total amount was built on our recommendations. If there are questions as to why we reduced or we eliminated or included, feel free to ask those. Some of them will be self-evident to you, I'm sure, but there are reasons why we put forward the recommendations that we did.
Okay. In talking with our CIO earlier too on this list that we get, I had made a recommendation for next year and the years to come that instead of some of them are saying new request and so on and so forth, I think it would be even more helpful if we said this is a one-time grant application versus annual. So hopefully we can look at that next time because, pardon? Like the first one. Yeah, it's a one-time ask, those kind of things. So anyway, moving on from there, let's start with the 535 Squadron, Royal Canadian Air Cadets. So as we found out during their presentation, it's not really what we thought it was going to be. It's all about getting this training unit into their branch. So, fire away. Councillor?
Yeah, you know, I see that it's not included in the taxation. However, after the presentation, and, you know, we've been fortunate enough to use simulators at the fire department, and they're great for training. I'd like to see us reconsider their request, and, well, now it's amended to $3,200, and again, because it's a one-time request.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
I'm sorry, but I don't want to spend taxpayers' dollars on that. I'm sure that it's a wonderful organization and great people in it. We've turned down other requests for different organizations that wanted monies for a specific project. I'm sorry, I won't be supporting this.
Okay. Councillor Wilkinson?
I agree with Deputy Mayor. I had a hard time with that one. I think of it as an investment in our youth, but is it our responsibility to do so? No, I think it's that one would be better as a private fundraiser if they went out and did it on their own. I'd kick in towards it myself personally, but we got a responsibility here, I think, and that's not included here. Tough one, though.
Okay, so we'll put Councillor Wilkinson down for 1,000. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Myself, I'm really torn on it too. Like I said that day, I've had a fair amount of engagement with this group in the last few years, simply because of my position as mayor, and they keep inviting me out to certain things, which I understand. And what I've seen with the kids, and one or two of them actually have been on the MIAC group, who were members of the Air Cadets, and they have gone on to further military experience. And the change in their personality is huge. But where I'm torn, I would like to support this, but I tend to agree with Councillor Wilkinson. I think this is something that they should go out there and get that money privately invested in it. I want to even just give them a portion, but that's where I am. Councillor Dunn? A portion from Councillor Wilkinson. Yeah.
Through you, Your Worship, it is a great organization. I was a member of Sea Cadets when I was a kid, and they took us off and did a lot of different events to different communities and did different things, and they, you know, it gives you a lot of structure in your life. Mm-hmm. But I can understand both sides of the point here about taxation dollars as well as, so I can appreciate that, but I would really like to see us help, but there's a certain point, there's so many other good organizations that we need to also help, so.
Deputy Mayor?
And I don't want to preach, but you know, I'm looking at it through the lens of, is this a taxpayer responsibility? Mm-hmm. And to me, that answers the question.
Yes.
No, it's not.
Okay. Actually, Councillor, if you're serious about it, I would mind throwing in on it too. So if any, and this is not meant as a pressure tactic to other members of council, but if some of you are, why don't we just talk to each other, pool our checks together, and we can deliver it to them and say, here, it's not a taxpayer thing, but, and not, that's not to, no. And I don't want it to come across that way. I really don't. But if you are serious, then I'd go in on that too. Anyway, all right, so no is the answer? I'm sorry. Yeah, we should do that. I think so. So, Deputy Mayor, do you want to say? Decline? Support by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. Annual charity volleyball. Again, this is more an in and out. And it's an annual. Moved by Councillor Verbicki, support by Councillor Jacobs. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Carried. BIA Beautification Initiative, new request. We can do it right now. Yep. Deputy Mayor.
I'd love to speak to this. We're already sending over $1 million towards the Uptown via the Mill Street revitalization. I also feel that R.C. Spencer's working on a master plan, and in that master plan, there should also be a decision on design types that will be used for benches and garbage receptacles. And as I said earlier to one of my colleagues, I think they're putting the cart before the horse by them deciding exactly what the design should be, and I don't think we're at that stage yet. So I will not be supporting that.
Councillor Wilkinson?
I appreciate the deputy mayor's comments. I looked at it last night as an investment back in our town, you know. But the deputy mayor is absolutely right. We do have a big commitment going into our uptown, and yes, let's let the process play out here. And all those that they included in there will be in the uptown revitalization on Mill Street. I'm confident of that. So. No from me.
So, and I just want to throw in on this too, because we've just gone through that deliberation with them with the session, and I had a brief discussion with Laura and Ruth on this as well, and with Peter, leading up to our budget deliberations. And the things that we as council should remember is that the reason for the BIA to exist is to beautify the municipality. Beyond that, which the municipality does. So as you mentioned, we're going to drop a ton on one street and hopefully on the other streets as time permits and money permit. Normally, I think buying fixtures like that is what we do based on whatever design structures we come up with. And what we don't buy is what then the BIA does with their assessment. So asking us for an extra 25 grand, I wouldn't, it was no hesitation for me. That was a no right off the bat. So use your own money that you collect from your members to do over and above what we do already. So not a lecture, just my point. Any other comments? Motion then? Move to deny? I don't think I can make motions. Supported by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion carries. Next one, Hogs for Hospice was withdrawn, so we don't have to worry about that one. LDSS Green Learning Courtyard. Comments? Councillor Hammond?
Your worship, thank you. When asked the question if the new LDSS had both mechanical shops and welding shops and wood shops, my thought was that those benches and tables that they're referring to could be built in-house. I know they have a number of projects they take on, but sometimes if they're challenged with new ones,
Yeah.
I think that they would step up. And I think that, you know, I think that they would have more of appreciation for them and less likely to damage them if they were done in-house. So my thought is no.
Yeah. Councillor Wilkinson?
I just like to give my opinion. I think it's a slippery slope. We start heading down this direction with the schools. They're in front of us every year. God bless them. Great organizations. But not only do the residents have to afford our property taxes, but they also get hit with the school taxing behind that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the school board gets the same criticisms that we do, but I think those should be left at their door. That's my
They only
opinion.
get the criticisms from council members, but Councillor Jacobs?
I agree with my fellow councillors. I believe that, and it was brought up yesterday about the woodworking shops that they have within the school themselves, and they're quite capable, I think, of making that projects, you know, for them. And as said earlier, I don't think we should be here supporting the school boards
Education.
in those particular areas.
Motion to deny? Councillor Jacobs, Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on that motion? All in favor? Motion carries. Leamington Half Century Club. This is an annual one. It's an obligation we have to our senior citizens, so I'm just going to assume we can say, do I need a motion? Okay, motion, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Dunn, all in favor of that, and carried. And then this is a newbie, a one-timer, as I say, from the Half Century Club for $20,000. Deputy Mayor.
I'm with it on this one. I think that we don't do a ton for, excuse me, that segment of our population, just because we have so many requirements for youth and, you know, sports and whatever else. So to me, for a one-shot deal to help them with the roof, I don't have a problem with that.
Actually, this is the parking lot.
Oh, the parking
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
That's right, they've done the roof. So to me, I personally don't have a problem. I think that that's an okay thing to do because we're spreading ourselves over and making it better for another segment of our population. So I will support this one.
Okay. Councillor Hammond?
Your worship, thank you. I'm not sure that this, I mean, right now it appears as though it's a one-time request, but $20,000 won't begin to cover the cost of what they want to do to the parking lot. Now, having said that, I go through there quite often. I walk my dog through there, and the parking lot is in complete disarray. There are potholes and everything, and we all know that. And I'm in favor of giving them this money if it gives them an upstart to try and get that repaired and finished.
I will come back to you. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. I believe, though, in their presentation yesterday, they have funding package in for Trillium or whoever. So they're not, this is just basically a backup. If they're not able to secure those funds, then they will come to us. So this will be held in abeyance, I guess, type thing, till they come back.
If the Trillium Fund does not come through, that's the way we understood it yesterday. If their Trillium Fund comes through, they won't need the 20. But if it doesn't, then that will be a hand up for them to get started. Is that how everybody understood it? Okay. Okay. No, I got other people to speak to it yet. Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship. The fact that Christine was mentioned about all the fundraising they do already, they're not asking for the full amount. They're just asking for a small portion to help them get on their way. And the fact that if they don't use it, they don't want it. They've got other repairs they're going to do, but they're going to do that on their own.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate all the efforts that are going forward with that, so I would support it.
And Mr. Neufeld?
My point was just that it was contingent or conditional on them not being successful with their grant application. So I just want to make sure that that council remembered that we'll hold that money until such time as they've determined whether they're going to receive money or not.
Councillor Berbicki.
Well, that was my question. I wasn't going to support it at all because of what was said. So if they're going to get the money, and I still won't be supporting it either way.
Okay. Looking for a motion, moved by Councillor Jacobs to grant the funds and supported by Councillor Dunn. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't have you down. Sorry. Tim?
I just want to stay consistent. It was like the squadron. That's an investment in our youth. This is an investment in our elderly, I guess. We've filled our obligation in the first one there with the 20,000. So I'd like to do it, but they're applying for that grant. I think that's fantastic, and that's the way it should be. As for the second half, for us helping out, no, I won't be in favor, and that's the reason why. I'd like to stay consistent with my thoughts. Thank you.
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor. Further discussion on the motion is to accept the grant. Nope, we already voted the 24,000 was a yes, because we do that every year. And that's the only way they can get their operating funds. Deputy Mayor?
So if they don't do this new thing, can we make them do it? Because it's in bad condition? Is there bylaw?
Under our bylaw?
Because of property standards?
We could likely, depending on the state of the property. There could be some orders that could be issued, but I'd have to have one of the officers investigate and see if it would be something that they would issue an order.
Councillor Hammond?
Along those lines, in talking to Christine, the estimated cost to replace that parking lot is $80,000.
Yeah.
So, and they're asking for 20, yeah, so I'll give my hand up. So if we did issue them an order, I think they would have to close the doors because they don't have $80,000.
Yeah. Councillor Verbicki?
Well, worthy mayor, before you order them an order, you better check the other parking lots that need it more than this one does.
Yeah, and true enough, most of them are probably commercially owned parking lots, though, that need it, whereas this is our seniors group, and that's where I lay with it. But
Do we own the building?
no, I don't think so.
We have nothing, that's not attached to the town at all, and like the library or anything?
No.
So we're starting now to pay grants for bricks and mortar.
I hear where you're coming from. I do. All right. Any more comments? So there's a motion on the floor to say yes to the grant. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. District Chamber of Commerce, 20 grand, as we do every year. Comments? Deputy Mayor moves. Councillor Dunn supports. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Motion carries. Secondary School Parent Council, 4,000 new request. Councillor Hammond?
Mayor, thank you. I had some thoughts about this last night. I'm trying to, in my own mind, distinguish between some of the requests we get, and to Councillor Wilkinson's point about the Air Cadets and some of the things we've had from the schools in the past. And I think this is a little different in the respect that, you know, we've all had children and grandchildren go through the graduation ceremonies when they have bursaries and allotted to them, and I guess that's what they're looking for. I would like to see us either give them the amount that they're looking for, the 4,000, or at least discuss giving them something in terms of grants. They could be done under the auspice of, you know, for students entering business and finance or communications, fire technology, planning and development, all of those things that we do within the municipality or trades. So I would really like to hear a discussion with the rest of our council members about either starting some form of program like that and starting with this 4,000 or something less than that, and maybe at some point working up higher. Like I'm thinking like a $500 bursary to each student.
Deputy Mayor?
I'd like to do one $1,000 bursary. I think enough that it makes an impact, but there's no need to do it for that many. I think if we do one, and even if we do it from the council, the Municipality of Leamington, put something like that on there and have it come out of our budget. I agree with you. I think whenever we go to the graduation, there's all kinds of people that dig deep, you know, whether it's in memory of a loved one. I think we need to have a hand in that. But I would say just do one and do it for $1,000 so that it's impactful to a degree. There's no need to do 8.
Okay. Councillor Verbicki?
Were the mayor in my past life, I was chair of the Cardinal Carter Parent Council. We started the Cardinal Carter Lottery, and today you'll notice in the paper that the winner was chosen. They raised $22,000 for this, so I'm assuming that they should find a way of fundraising this. If we're not doing a bursary, we should, but to give them money just to the parent council is wrong. If not, then you better revisit number 1 again.
Yeah. So, and that's, if I can, I just want to jump on this too, because Peter just reminded me of it. So if you do 1,000 to Leamington High, you got to do 1,000 to Cardinal Carter, you got to do 1,000 to UMEI. So now we're back up to almost, it's a heartstring thing for me. It would be nice to say that the town of Leamington grants, like gives a bursary of $1,000 to that student at each of our 3 high schools. I just, like you say, go back to number 1. So I'm in the no position on this one, but so I need a motion from somebody. Councillor Verbicki, decline. Councillor Jacobs, support. No, second. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. John had to take his bill at a quarter after. All right. Further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Horticultural Society, the first one, 4,000. I'll move it. Moved by Deputy Mayor, support by Councillor Hammond. Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship, to me, that's just for the stuff. They're doing all the work. They just want enough to cover what they're doing in our community. So I thought the extra $500 would be, I would give them that extra $500, in my opinion, because of all the work that they do to try and, no, I do give enough to the soup thing and everything else. But I thought we could. because they are improving our community by the floral designs and the canna lilies, I think is that what we called them. So that was just my thoughts on it.
Okay, other comments? I don't think $500 is going to kill us either way. So I need well, we do have a motion. So I'm sorry, we do have a motion, that's right. At 4,000, sticking at the 4? Yeah. Okay. No further discussion, all in favor of the 4? Opposed? The next one, though, is for everybody's favorite, the Communities in Bloom. Moved at 3,500. Support by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Hammond.
Thank you. Mayor, I guess in the form of a question, is that not where they talked about trying to get the increase in the cost of the plants themselves?
No, that was in the previous budget. Is that me, John? That's John Jacob. Okay. Okay. So we're at 3,500 is the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Next one is the triathlon. Again, one of those in and out operations for $997 annual. In kind, yeah. Moved by Councillor Rubicki, support by Councillor Jacobs. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Carried. 7,000 horticulture or historical society. Again, the same that we do every year. Council's wishes. Moved by Councillor Dunn and Hammond. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain. Carried. Little Tomato Children's Theater. Council. Motion to deny. Okay. Motion to deny the requested amount. Well, it's not in the taxation. No. Okay. Yep. Yep. Support by Councillor. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to deny this application. Questions, comments? Councillor Dunn?
Through your worship, I recall that last year, she said, I do believe she said it was a one-time thing. She was asking for $2,000, and now they're back for $6,000, so
Yeah.
that's why I have a hard time with it.
Yeah, and I had a hard time with it too because last year it was for the microphones, which is exactly what they're asking for again this year. So what happened to what we gave last year? And it's being held in Kingsville. It's a great little theater group. It's awesome. But maybe they should be asking Kingsville for the money, not us. So, Councillor Wilkinson?
You're right. Fantastic organization. Our family's been a part of it, but we have warned them too. We gave them very fair warning. This thing has to get back into Leamington. It's Leamington's outfit, and I don't care how complicated it is if they can't figure it out. Schools, whatever. We've even worked with LDSS. That's going to be there next year. Hopefully, the onus is on them to make it right. It's in Kingsville, and so good luck to them. But for this year, it's off the table for me.
Okay. Further discussion? Motion to deny. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Migrant worker program. You guys are disgusting. Oh no, that's Rob. Deputy Mayor.
I'm sending a message out there, and if anybody ever comes before this council and tells us what we're doing is shameful, I
Shameful,
will
that's the
never,
word, yeah.
ever, ever support them. And Bill, you can take that back to those people. That was disgusting. That was... This happened a number of years ago when the chamber came and the gentleman gave us a talking to, and let me tell you, he got the finger shoved in his face. We are not going to sit here and be accused of shameful behavior. We're representing the taxpayer. We already know what the taxpayer does and does not want to do, and then we get accused of that baloney. I am not supporting this. I'm not supporting it for $1, let alone 8 or 5. Don't ever come when I'm sitting here and expect support from me, because you won't get it.
Okay. Thank you. I wish you'd tell us how you really feel, but
If I may, that was disrespectful to
It was,
everybody
highly.
sitting in
Yep.
this room.
it shut my ears. Yeah.
Oh, as soon as he said that, I thought, I'm done with you. And if you don't know enough, then you should not be chosen by your organization to sit in that chair.
Okay. Councillor Dunn.
I agree. That was very rude of him to talk like that. And it was, and after talking to him last year after he presented, it's about attitudes of people and how you deal with people, whether you get more out of it. But to further that discussion, unfortunately, he is no longer with it. Actually, he backed out last month. He is not even going to be. The other gentleman was Miguel, I believe is his name. He is stepping in as the chairman, and so why he was even in to present this to us was outrageous. The people that actually run it is Lily, who's in the office. That's where the money's going, and the other part-time person that they are talking about, they're the ones that set up the English classes at the greenhouse, at St. Michael's, the Spanish classes. So any other organization, and as you remember, the Chamber brought forth that program, and they said about training facilities and having that experience and having the training stuff brought, and they would want to mitigate and bring these classes, these language classes, into that training event. This is exactly what they're talking about, this organization and what they do. That one person does not represent the whole organization. Unfortunately, he was the one speaking at the time, and he was rude. And I agree with you, he was rude, but that does not represent all the new people that are on this board and that are working so diligently to do what is right for our community. And they represent us in the community. And they're not slapping us around like this one individual did. And I apologize on behalf of the committee, but I guarantee you they'll be horrified when they find out how he handled it and how he came to us. But I'm sorry, I think that they should get that and more, because the fact is, if we had to hire somebody to come in and teach, when we get, if and when we get that facility to teach Spanish classes or English classes, it would cost you a lot more to have a teacher come in than having volunteers. And they also do the translation, and they do that for all of our community, and they represent us, as well as providing all kinds of other things with the sports and stuff. And they charge for Spanish classes. You heard them report that last year when it came to the police and the bus department. The bus, we're so thankful for being able to get those Spanish classes, because we are going to keep expanding on that. So where do we have the other facilities that can be able to do that? In fact, I think they should be getting more, because it's not him. He's gone. And I can't reiterate that enough. He is no longer part of that organization, and he shouldn't even have came off. I don't know where he came off by doing that, and that doesn't represent the other people that are there, all the new people that are part of this community.
Probably the beginning of silly season. So, Deputy Mayor, I know you want to come back on that, so.
Further to that, Bill, that does not give me any faith in the organization. If they don't have enough wherewithal to know who's representing them and what's going to come out of his mouth, then I don't have a lot of faith in that organization. And there is, the multi-language center does offer Spanish classes, and people can easily set that up. That's not something that is not available or could be available in the community. But honestly, if it's just a group of people that are do-gooders, which is all well and good, then they need to find somebody to steer that committee in a better direction. Because to me, this shows lack of leadership when you allow somebody who's already not working for you to be your spokesperson when you're asking for money. Holy smokes. If they were working for me, I'd fire the bunch of them. Because really, that is not, I mean, they may be good people, but as an organization, I'm not willing to give them money. I'm sorry.
Do you mind waiting, Tim? This is good. Councilor, now, before I go back to you, Bill, you didn't really make a motion in the first part, right? You were just stating your opinion. Okay. Councilor Dunn. Yep, I just wanted to clarify.
With all due respect, Deputy Mayor, the fact of the matter is this gentleman got a job chairing somewhere else and dropped this committee and went on. And it's probably best for the committee that he did. to him to react like that and carry on like that is outrageous. And like I said, I was offended by it as well. But that does not represent the rest of the people. And you must know yourself that there's many people that will just blurt out and do things and are being totally disrespectful. But does that not represent everybody in that committee? This guy was on his way out. He didn't care at that point in time. So that's how it ended up. It does not represent like the Lily that goes out there and does all this extra volunteer work as well as doing all the teaching these classes. And like I said, if there's other organizations that are teaching Spanish classes to our police department or the bus department and all the other organizations in our community, I haven't heard of them. And you may be right, they are there. But I'm telling you, this is something that would cost us a lot more, and it's a vital part of our community because we do have a large migrant worker community, and it's going to keep growing. So that does not represent. He's not the one teaching these classes. He's not even part of it. Like I told you, he's out, and in this going on his way out, so he thought he'd just throw a little bit of his weight around and be rude. Well, does that represent everybody in that community? No, it does not. So unfortunately, I disagree. I think we should get money.
Got your point. Councillor Wilkinson?
That was fantastic. You two need to get your own program. It's like an episode of PTI over here watching it, you know? Going on back and forth. Loved it. And Councillor Dunn, fantastic job. Fantastic job.
Mom would be happy to see this so she could see it.
Wow.
Why don't you get her cable?
Yeah. Buy a computer. Get a computer for her. Yeah.
I know the guy did a terrible job yesterday. I've used the wrong words up here. I'm not a good talker. I'll be the first one to say it. I've made so many mistakes up here where they get my comments or sometimes come across like a caveman. I don't have that ability to speak, well. I'm envious of you other guys. I try to look past that individual, that guy. I was in for the 5,000 last year. I know we've denied them in years past. They're asking for an increase. I see progress with this group. I do. The baseball game is first one. I enjoy going over there on Sundays and seeing what's happening. I see that as progress. They're providing other activities for them. I think I've said before, the migrant workers are the horsepower of this community that make us so, cash strong, so rich, so fantastic. And it's on the backs of, a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears comes on the back of this community. I'm in for a $3,500 increase. That's the way I feel about this one. And but yeah, he did a terrible job. Let's move on. And it doesn't represent the rest of the people in this organization.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, non-argumentative.
Non-argumentative. I just want to say that the Mexican consulate has been working with the municipality to a degree that has never been done in the past. And the Consul Alberto is doing wonderful things that are bringing the community together. And I'm encouraged with that. I think it's professionally done. I think he has a deep love for his people. I think he has a deep love for our community. And that's where I see progress. I'm not seeing progress with this group. And even at that function at the Roma Club where there were hundreds, I went that afternoon. It was a fantastic experience. The food, the music, the dancing, and they brought people in from Toronto and Detroit. That was not led by Migrant Worker Community Program. They were there. Well, there was a lot paid by the consulate bill because it was extremely professional entertainment. And I'm telling you, that's the level that I'm expecting, and that's the level that we've been getting from the consulate. I'm not seeing that level. And again, back to what was said, it's an organization that allows somebody who's already fired to come and speak.
Hey, you said
and
not
I will
argument.
say, and I just want to respond to Councillor Wilkinson. I'm leaving Councillor Bill alone now. We may say inappropriate things, but we don't spit in the face of the people who give us money or spit in their hand, and that's what he did. It isn't just a matter of using wrong words. He spit in our faces, and that I don't take lightly. And to all our people that work here, that do things, shameful was the word, and I'm not going to forget that. I'm pinning my hopes on the star of the consulate, of the consul. That's who I believe is making huge inroads, and also the OGVG is working with the migrant workers, with they have reached out to us. I'm seeing bigger steps, more professional steps being done that I think there'll be a new day with us, with our community and the migrant worker community. I don't see this organization as being that at all.
Councillor Hammond.
Your worship, thank you. You know, I think that that's what makes this process work, is the dialogue. I mean, we can raise our voices, but at the end of the day, we're all here, though, for the same benefit, the benefit of the municipality. And I think these conversations are healthy. Now, so having said that, I'd like to hear some more, but you know, I think it's important to remember, yeah, and there's no sense talking about that gentleman because we already know he's on his way out.
Yep.
We're anticipating a large increase in the number of migrant workers coming to the community over this next year. We know that. We know that for sure, if not even going to be doubled. To Councillor Wilkinson's point, I thought they were looking for $8,000. Tim, you had mentioned $3,500. No, well, he's looking for 8, I think.
8,000, yeah. Yeah, but with $3,000 is.
Yeah, so in light of that, and again, I don't know what good they do and do not do. And I don't know how many of us do, actually, other than Councillor Bill, who sits on that committee. So I'm in favor of not only giving them the money, but giving them an increase, whether it be to the 8,000 or not, and take a wait-and-see attitude and see who we get here representing them again next year.
Okay, Councillor Dunn.
Through your worship, to the fact of the Festival Patrias, a majority of the money is paid by the Migrant Worker Committee. They pay for that. And as opposed to, Alberto's fantastic. I agree, 100%, fantastic. But he represents the Mexican community, the Mexican. In fact, he mentioned about if they have problems, the consulate's there only for the Mexicans, not for the other Spanish-speaking clientele. That being said, how many other organizations are there that they don't represent? And how many people, if they're not of their Mexican descent, then they will not, the translation, everything else, that's where Lily and the other people that we have at the Migrant Worker come in very much handy, because it's not just a Spanish-speaking, we have migrant workers from all different kinds of communities coming in. And the fact is, I understand that discussion of over the OVG, sorry.
OGVG.
Yeah. That you say that that discussion has come to me as well, that they don't, but when you have greenhouses that are signing up to have English classes done there by the Migrant Worker Committee and the volunteers there, then obviously there's some people buying into that. So that is the other pushback. Thank you.
Okay. Who did I have? Actually, Mr. Neufeld, did you want to put your thoughts in on that? What you were just whispering in my ear?
Yeah, there is a certain level of frustration. I certainly took offense to the comments that were made yesterday, especially on behalf of the staff who work here and have worked diligently in trying to improve things in the uptown. To be told our work was shameful is unacceptable. But I'm also, aware that council is wanting to do something to try and improve relationships with our guest workers. Perhaps the Migrant Worker Committee is no longer the body that is designed properly for doing that. And that's why the OGVG, I don't know, let me back up. Let me just say that the OGVG has reached out to the municipality directly, as a number of the growers are also interested in doing something directly. So my comment was, maybe we take the $5,000, I think that the administration had recommended, and put it into the council budget, council services budget, to create an initiative or talk with the OGVG directly about how we can become involved in some sort of a program. So we're still, the municipality is putting some money towards the improvement of the relationship. So we're talking about bigger picture, but the same amount of money would be going to a different organization that is trying to take steps for improvement. It seems to me that the Migrant Worker Committee has been a sore spot for a number of years now, and perhaps it's time for them to determine what their actual mandate is. If they don't have the professional people in place to help with that, because just because you're well-meaning doesn't mean you're effective. And these are taxpayer dollars. And I know what council is saying. They want to make sure using taxpayer dollars properly. I would suggest that council consider putting it into the council services budget and using that money towards some initiative with the OGVG as it relates to the guest worker program.
Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. I like Peter's comments in that respect. I think that's a way to look at it. I sat on that committee a few years back as well, and I have to agree that there was lack of direction and which way they wanted to go. I know the monies that we were providing to them was used to take bus trips. They were used to do different functions that really, I guess, made the stay of the migrant worker here more comfortable in a sense. However, we're not the only ones that are contributing to this as well. I mean, they're getting money from Kingsville and from other areas, and I don't know whether the greenhouse growers themselves are contributing to the program or not. I was staying at the 5,000, but then I like the twist that Mr. Neufeld just threw at us here, and I would like to take that into consideration as well as this time. I think that would be, I guess, a combined effort with the board, as well as with the money we're giving them, and they might be able to further direct and look at a different way to provide for these individuals.
I've got Councillor Verbeke next.
With the mayor, thank you. It doesn't matter to me where the money goes, but I think 5,000 would be the limit, because from a previous member there, I was lied to too. And I just want to make sure that somebody gets something. So it's in the budget already that way. We're trying to save the taxpayers' money. So I don't know where this is going to go for a vote, but man, oh man, glad you're in charge. I'm not giving more than 5,000.
Okay, Councillor Wilkinson.
I'm in support of Councillor Jacobs' recommendation. What I liked about it, he says in collaboration with the board. And the current members there, Bill, you included, I'd like to hear your thoughts, but I like that he included that portion with the collaboration of their board, the existing one, and park that money, as Peter said.
Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship, if the Vegetable Growers Association, because I don't want to keep trying to stumble through that, if they were not in support of the Migrant Worker Committee, why do they keep giving $20,000? They are in support of it somewhat. There may be some people that might have a little reservations, but if they were going to not support the Migrant Worker Committee, wouldn't they not pull all their money and funding out of it? They give $20,000 a year. So I don't know why we would just drop it when they feel that.
Okay. Mr. Neufeld.
I don't want to suggest that they were pulling their funding. I merely say that they came to us directly to talk about new initiatives as it relates to the guest worker program. It's another option. I have no knowledge of, and there was no suggestion that they wouldn't be continuing to fund or provide funds to the Migrant Worker Committee. I was just suggesting an alternative way, given that there have been discussions initiated for other things that we can do.
My turn? That's a great discussion. Half an hour on $5,000, but this is something that's really irritating to all of us for many, many reasons. I'm still okay with 5,000 to the program. I really am. And until our neighbor who should be contributing comes forward with more, I say we stay where we are. I don't disagree with Councillor Jacobs, Mr. Neufeld, but until something concrete comes forward from the OGVG, I think we still need to support this program until that happens. And that's just my position. I discount everything that was said yesterday. It offended me. It really did. But as Tim said, you look past that and you think about the program itself. And we do have to do something. We must participate in this. And what that must participate means in the future, I don't know yet. Peter said we've met with, and we had a really good, serious meeting with the OGVG. And I think that it was very uplifting to us because we thought, finally, somebody's coming to the table to help us. I'm, again, torn on this. I'm okay with the 5 going to the program as it stands right now, but it will be council's decision to make up. Councillor Jacobs?
Your worship, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I still like the OVGBG directing that. And I think that prior to giving this money to either one, if that's the way we go, that maybe some consultation could be done with the Vegetable Growers Board, saying that funding is there for the migrant worker program, and they distribute it with their own. You said, I think, Bill, they're giving them $20,000 from the board. Well, this gives them 25 to do more with, and maybe with negotiations. And I like the idea that I believe the deputy mayor brought up, that they're a professional organization, they have direction, and so forth. They could use those funds to support the migrant worker program where they deem it would be adequate and properly used.
But
So-
we can't give $5,000 to the OGVG. That won't work. They're a business organization, so
But could we do it in trust or something like that, as they?
we can work with them.
That's where I'm
on that.
sort of
Yeah.
suggesting that it goes in that direction, that we could put the money towards the migrant worker program in trust with OGBD, and then they could, use it with their own and support the different programs that are there. So basically, it's in trust.
Deputy Mayor?
But I will say what you just said spoke volumes. You said, finally, we've got somebody helping us. Well, obviously, the migrant worker program is not cutting it. For you to say finally speaks loudly.
Yep, not hiding that. Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. To Councillor Jacobs' thoughts, I wouldn't be in favor of giving it to the OBGB, because I think that what they'll in turn do is turn around and instead of giving 20, could potentially give 15 and add our 5 to it. And I don't think that was your intent, but I think that personally we should vote on it the way it stands and see how it shakes out.
Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship. Often what happens with Kingsville, they wait to see what we do, and then they just match what we do. So they're just following our lead because, again, they bring a lot of their migrant workers to our area anyway. We all know that, and that's why they do they just follow our lead. So that's where it goes.
Yeah, but if we bump our state, they're not going to bump their state, I can guarantee it. So, anyway, Councillor Verbeke?
I think it's been beaten up enough, Mayor.
Yep.
I would like to make a motion on what is included in taxation to give still to the migrant worker program a total of $5,000.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Hammond. Discussion on the motion? Anything left to say? All in favor of the motion of granting $5,000 to the migrant workers program? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2, 1, 2. Motion carries. Yeah, it could have been taken full hours. Yeah, I don't mean to make fun of that, but really, when you think about it, it's just the whole topic just drives us crazy. Anyway, Point Pelee National Park Advisory. Now, this is a one-time request, and Mr. Neufeld, this is regard to the new commissioning of the new song, which I think is pretty cool that we get involved in this. But I'll leave it up to council to discuss. So, comments? Oh, Mr. Neufeld.
Just one comment. The $5,000 is a 50% request. So they are, the Point Pelee Advisory Committee is raising the other 5. So I just wanted you to know that it wasn't the full up, it's just half.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, support by Councillor Hammond. Discussion on the motion. Oh, in anticipation? All in favor? Motion carries. Moving on to the next one, South Essex Arts, looking for 50. Listed as 45, but looking for 50. What are council's thoughts? Councillor Jacobs?
Why, their request for 50, but what is the reasoning with administration to drop it to 45? What was the request for, or do they need the whole 50?
Mr. Neufeld?
I believe what he said yesterday was that the increase was to cover off an increase in wages. The reason administration stuck with the 45 is because over the last handful of years, the funding that has been provided to the LAC has increased dramatically. Last year, there was additional money plus an additional 5,000 to recognize that the they lost the revenue from ErieQuest, so we had already built that into the budget last year. So it was administration's perspective that the amount of increase over the last few years has already been significant, and given the requests, we thought that that was balanced.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Thank you, Your Worship. And Peter, you're right. That's probably one of the biggest factors is, yes, to offset the cost of the minimum wage hike. They operate Chad, of course, but they have a staff of one over there after that, Sophie. And the LAC is continuously, we see the numbers, there's evidence there. Data is there, that is a busy, hopping little place by the numbers. They have that data behind them. With events, exhibits, programs, and still, we milk everything that we get from Chad. That guy, he works, I don't know what number you put into him, but he gets a very meager salary to begin with. But that one staff that he depends on, Sophie over there, her wages will be going up this year. Plus, there is just the increased business over there. It's hard to function on that. That's where the extra 5,000 is coming. Just at last night's meeting, with being busier, events like that, they're an art gallery. You go to any art gallery, whether it be in Windsor, Sarnia, wherever, there's a lot of like wine and cheese events that happen. We're looking at a new policy here. Not a new policy, just one we didn't know that we were supposed to be involved with. In order to serve wine, we got to go through quite a process, the town alcohol policy, and one of the policies in there is you need to have, if there's an event that has just 25 to 50 people, we have to have 4 staff or volunteers on hand. We're doing a lot more of these events, baby showers, wedding showers, birthday parties now are happening. So we need that revenue from those events like that. And all we want to do is serve usually a single glass of wine. It's not like we're the center court or the Leamington Flyers up there when their bar happens. But we have to abide to these rules. So there is increased staff concentration happening that costs us money. That's my little platform speech for them, and I'll remind everybody, we put a big commitment into the arts and culture for our town. We think that is our way forward, and this is a big driver of that right there. Thank you. And with that, I'd make a motion on the back end of that for the 50,000 support, or support for the extra 5,000. They requested 50,000.
So I have a motion on the floor.
Seconded for discussion.
Seconded by Councillor Verbeke. Before all of you get going at it, if you do, I'm in favor of it as well. I don't want to cheap out on our art gallery, and I think it's done great and wonderful things. And I think I can see $5,000 coming up from another request that will keep our numbers where they need to be. Not that one. We haven't got to it yet. So I just want to let you know that I'm in favor of seeing that increase. But Deputy Mayor?
I just worry about when the request for grant money comes in for wages, if that is not a sustainable organization going into the future. I mean, it's one thing for us to be giving money for bricks and mortar, upkeep, upgrades, but when the request is specifically upgraded for wages, then I feel like that shouldn't be our responsibility. The wages, that should be theirs, that you have to find that within your organization by booking heavier, by bumping up your prices. I do not think that that's what we should be paying for in the grant. So I won't go for the extra 5. I think they need to find that there. I agree it's a great thing to have, but then maybe you need to charge an entrance fee. Maybe you have to do something else. And I agree, Chad does all kinds of stuff, but when we're giving the money to subsidize the wages, to me, the question of sustainability going into the future is how many times are they going to come back to us to bump up the wages? And that's why I'll support the 45, but I will not support the 50.
Okay, Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship. Tim, I'm just curious, like you do say birthdays and all these other functions they put on, do they charge for any of that?
Yes, we do. Rental fees, again, just discussing that for the 2018 period coming up here. We were trying to figure that out last night. It's all over the map, and it's not something we can count on either, you know? We don't know what all events are going to come to us through the year requesting space. So it's a bit of a wild card in that aspect. But I hear your comments, Deputy Mayor, and thank you there. Appreciate it.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. Along the same lines, though, I guess where my question is coming in is the fact that you said if you serve any alcohol, you have to have 4 staff there and so forth. Would this not be billed back to the individuals that are running that? Are you talking about the Arts Center is putting that on themselves? Like I'm a little confused. If it's a birthday party or a shower or something, you think you would build that cost of the extra staff in with the charge for the facility?
Well, this policy is new to us. We hadn't had it in the past. We didn't realize we had to have that policy is from 1999. I think Ruth plans on relooking at that one. That one could be a work in progress there. So it would have to be a new business that we have to look at in 2018. But for 4 staff, that's pretty substantial to our little organization to
But
you
what,
know,
I,
add that
what I'm
to
getting at,
maybe put that onto the cost of the rentals, which I think
yeah,
you're saying.
I can't see where we have to take that 5 and put it on our backs where, I mean, if you go to any organization.
We'll be forced to do something like
Yeah,
that, sure.
if you're going to do that, to me, if I was hosting a party and the venue is saying, well, I got to have 5 people, they would charge me for those 5 people, I would believe. So I think that's pretty well how we'd have to look at it.
And yeah, we will be forced to do something like that. But this is new business to us. Anyway.
Okay. Councillor Hammond?
Your Worship, thank you. I'll direct my question to Councillor Wilkerson. Is in all businesses, you need a business plan moving forward. And have they developed a business plan at the Arts Center? I mean, they're up and running and they're very solvent, but I just wondered, do they have a business plan for the next year, 2 years, 3 years down the road as to what their operating expenses and anticipated increases in wages are going to be and utilities and all of those things? Something that, and I don't know whether there was a packet available that we could have looked at, you know, with respect to the grants, that we could have maybe not asked these questions,
Right.
but I just wondered if you've got something up and running.
And I didn't see that packet either, Councillor Hammond. I wouldn't be able to speak to that. It would have to be Chad or Penny that would get back to you on that one to be accurate. I'd be guessing if I were to say one way or another. John?
I think you know where I'm coming from, because if you don't have a business plan, next year it could be 55,000, it could be 60,000 because of increased costs in utilities, for example. So that's why I ask. And moving forward, much the same as what we're working on right now with the Bank Theater, you know, like a 5-year business plan. So we know where we're going to be 5 years from now and what it's going to take to operate that facility.
Councillor Verbicki?
Well, in the realm of my industry, everybody's upset with the minimum wage increase, but I'm assuming then next year they'll come for more money because on January the 1st of 19 it goes up again. So I mean, we just can't keep doing this either when we have to pay our own. So I'm in support of the recommended amount.
Ruth, did you want to touch on the legal aspects?
No, I was just going to talk about the policy that Councillor Wilkinson was talking about, and it's something I did meet recently with Chad, and we did talk about, and I know he did take that to the board, just to ensure, he was really looking at their own policy for rentals, and was talking to me about that, and we then had the conversation about our alcohol policy, and that they should be implementing that because it's a municipal facility.
Right.
And he was concerned about the number, when they host their own events, the number of staff that they're required to have under the policy, and then ensuring that when they rent that facility and that their renter has their their special occasion permit, that they have the sufficient staff to manage that event as well.
Okay. And Laura, you had perspective?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to highlight in the grant applications that were provided to council, the Leamington Arts Center provided a 2017 budget, but not necessarily a 5-year plan.
Okay. So my circling back around to actually the Deputy Mayor's comments, I just need some information then. The art gallery is ours, correct? It's a municipal facility. We own that facility. But the employees are not part of us. So we are, strictly to your point, responsible for the building itself, period. Not the operation. But part of this $45,000 a year is being used for operation. So that's our grant to, basically, to the arts community, which we have been trying to increase. So I get this side, and I understand both sides of this one. I'm still I'm okay with 50. And if it's just based on wages, then I understand that. I have a problem with that as well, but I want our art gallery to continue to flourish. And in the grand scheme of things, again, $5,000. I mean, really, is to me is like peanuts. And I know that's very disrespectful to taxpayers' dollars, but I can find it real quick for you in the next topic. But anyway, I will leave it at that. Deputy Mayor.
But he said it was for wages.
Yes.
Again, I'm using that lens with
Yeah.
that taxpayer lens.
Yeah.
Is that what we should be doing? And I'm going to say no. I feel like I'm the bad cop in this good cop, bad cop morning. But I'm still looking at that 1.8. Like, we all have to remember this 1.8 is going to be affected by every 5,000 we grant here and we grant there. That's over and above included in taxation.
But we haven't, so.
I know, but I'm just,
Yep.
because I think that becomes a forgotten
Yep.
element. So to me, I go back to it, I think we're doing well by giving $45,000. I just have a quibble when it goes
Just
to
to wages.
wages.
Okay.
And he made that clear.
Yep, he did. I agree. Peter Neufeld, Mr. Neufeld.
When I said that, administration turned their minds to this as well, it is not just because of the increases that we've seen. We've also been very flexible in spending money on things like the elevator, for example, which we covered the cost, and the maintenance contract. Those are things that otherwise ought to have been in the operations. So when we look at these, we were trying to do a balancing act. We're trying to work with these people. We try to work with all of our service groups and be fair in them. But then for example, last year, after we had increased the budget by $5,000, we were asked for more money because they lost Erie Quest. We quickly reminded them that we already had compensated them for losing Erie Quest. So this was our $45,000 was as fair as we thought we could be, given that we had also done extra stuff throughout the year, including the elevator and the elevator maintenance. Just so you understand that there's some give and take on both sides.
So we have a motion on the floor for $50,000. If there's really no more, different discussion, then let's call a vote on this and see where we go. So all in favor of the 50? all three of us, pardon me, opposed, and motion is denied, or is defeated. Moved by the Deputy Mayor for 45, supported by Councillor Hammond. Discussion on that motion. All in favor, and motion carries. 45. Sun Parlor Folk Fest, 10 grand. Councillor Jacobs.
I support administration's recommendation that we do not provide any funding for this at all. I brought up and I spoke with Michelle there at the presentations. I'm somewhat disappointed to the fact that when they first came to us the first year, they said they were going to try and split it between the two areas, and that did not happen. And then they were going to provide some entertainment between the two. That did not happen. And so I think that we should bring this money. We have a great facility there now. And rather than give them that money, I think we should be focusing on upgrading and providing for our own. My opinion. I will be supporting the recommendation of administration.
Okay. Well, no, he didn't make a motion.
No, I was
he was
making,
just
I
saying
said
he
I
was
would
gonna
not
support.
recommend, but I will make the motion unless, well, we can bring it to discussion as well. I'll make the motion.
But Deputy Mayor, you're seconding? Okay,
Second.
and comment?
Yes,
Yep, go ahead.
except now I forget what I was going to say.
Well, we can come
Oh,
back.
no, I know. But you're not saying to take that 10,000 and put it somewhere else. You're just, okay, yeah, I will second it, and I will agree with you're exactly correct. We gave them that opportunity last year. They had noticed last year when we were in the stages of building the amphitheater, they did nothing in those months. And to me, they're not interested in going any further. So I think, yeah, we need to show that we're not interested either.
Okay, Councillor Hammond?
Your worship, thank you. And mine is just a form of a question. I agree with the comments of my fellow councilors, but when we turn down a grant that we've been giving out for a number of years, and in this case, $10,000, when we respond back to these grant requestees, do we just say no, or do we give them outline and give them reasons why? Our answer is no.
Laura?
Through you, Mayor Patterson, when I reached out to the grant applicants that were not approved in the 2017 budget, I simply just said, it was properly worded, but your grant request was not approved by council, and feel free to contact me. So I actually received a number of, I think there was one last year that was not approved. I had a very long conversation with that individual, and I would open it up to these, and I have confirmed with all of the grant applicants that after we finish deliberations that I will advise them, so I would do the same.
A good point, and able to say to them why, the reasons behind what we're doing, so thank you.
Okay, so I just want to speak to this one, and I want you to know in the end, I'm supporting all of you. But actually, if I think back to it, the guilt is on my shoulders because I really did push this one to help get it started. And I think in our first year it was only $5,000 that we gave, but that's a while back for me to remember. And really, the way I sold it to council or promoted it to council, whichever you want to say, it was this is the startup. We're helping them get this thing rolling because, as they said and confirmed back then, was yes, it will become self-sustaining. So the first year was such a great success. We were all quite pleased with it. I mean, our numbers, just like real dollars, not the expanded ones that other municipalities use when they have big sporting events in their town. Our real numbers were significant for the $5,000 investment, and off the top of my head, I'm thinking we had motel rooms, whatever you want to say, directly, about $33,000 invested right back into our town. I know it's much bigger than that, but that's why we went up to $10,000. We thought, okay, let's really give this a boost because we really do benefit from this organization running that event. But as Councillor Jacobs have said, as others have said, we've asked them to consider the spillover. Maybe, moving one or two performances here or adding us to their schedule. And having gone every year to see this, I can understand why they won't. or can't. Not that they won't, but they can't. When you start thinking about all the fencing that they have to pay for that goes around the park in Kingsville, and the fencing they then also have to buy or pay for in Leamington, the security they have to pay for there, the security they have to pay for here, those costs just double overnight. And the ticket prices they get, they are limiting their audience. But that's the cost of running that festival. So I get it from their business perspective, how I don't think it could ever happen here. So I think we've done our part. I think we've been very helpful in getting it going. I don't think they're going to miss our $10,000 recommendation. And no, we're not putting the 10,000 anywhere else because admin hasn't even included it in the taxation part. So if we say no, it's just no, and it doesn't affect anything. Councillor Hammond?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. And just a comment, I would hope, I mean, the fact that we're going to deny, and I'm assuming that's the way the vote's going to go, the $10,000, I would ask that we take some consideration into what we do at our own amphitheater on that same weekend to try to ensure that we don't run in conflict of that at the very least.
Yep. Yep. Councillor Jacobs?
You did touch on it, though. Regarding the 10,000, I wasn't making any recommendation that it would go anywhere else.
No, it doesn't exist. So, all right, so do we have a motion on the floor? Okay, so further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Sun Parlor Players Community Theater. This is an annual contribution I think we make as well, is it not? Yeah. Moved by Councillor Verbicki, support by Councillor Hammond.
With a comment, Mayor, again. Yeah, we've done this every year in the past. This year it becomes even more important than it has in the past because with the building potentially closing, they're going to have to rent some other facilities, some extra equipment in order to continue trying to put on some productions, throughout the downtime. So, I really hope that they become self-sustaining after these renovations and with potential of new revenue coming in. Hope things work out and they won't have to come back to us again.
Councillor Verbicki.
Really, Mayor, I just want to make sure, I'm getting you attention with my little light here.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that this money is going to where it's going to go, and it's not going to go into another fund where we are automatically going to matching contributions. So I just don't want no double dipping here.
Yeah. Do you want to confirm that? Yes, okay.
My understanding that this is for programming. And I think, to pick up where Councillor Hammond had left off, or he's already indicated the Bank Theatre is looking at a 5-year business plan to get their sustainability forecasted. So this money is meant for programming. I agree that it's probably even more important this year while we see the building get finished up, but it's not going to be used then to double dip into the other offer.
And actually, Councillor, I think your use of your flashlight there actually caught the Deputy Mayor's attention because it went in this ear and out the other ear and caught her reading eyes. Deputy Mayor.
It actually glanced off the top of your head, sir. With all due respect.
Wow.
Your brain, no, I'm telling you, your brains are exactly where they need to be. I think, really. He's just fine.
Well, it's been a long time. It's been a long day. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to continue my witch,
Sure.
my
Fire
witch
away.
hunt. No, not my witch hunt, my witch stance. But we are, we need to look at where we said with the BIA, we're already giving the organization some money. We are already giving the Bank Theatre a substantial bricks and mortar amount. I agree about the other that, they need it for programming, but we need to, when we apply that to another situation, we need to apply it to this one too and say, okay, so we're giving them a ton of money for the building itself, and we've been generous in the past, so now it's 18,000 for programming. Again, they are making it through admission and all so on and so on. So I think to just right off the bat go, yeah, sure, I think we need to look at this a little bit under the surface because there's already a fair bit coming from the taxpayer. So I would invite a little more conversation on that aspect. I mean, I can be convinced, but I'm just saying it's already a lot of money.
Councillor Verbeke.
Now, maybe I'm wrong. The matching funds we have, is that coming out of taxpayers' money or is that coming out of the Collins estate?
Collins Estate.
So that has never been paid for by any taxpayer. So I mean, everybody,
Just
you know,
one.
but you know what I mean? Otherwise, people say, well, yeah, you're putting money in there, but still the taxpayer paid for it somewhere down the line.
Right.
But this is just to make sure that, you know, when you say you're giving them a ton of money, it's not taxpayers' money.
Correct. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. In response to the Deputy Mayor, I think that you're correct in one aspect of it, but the other aspect is the fact that we're counting on that bank theater to be a draw for our downtown and an integral part of our revitalization of the downtown area. So I think it's, you know, I guess we need to get it moving and get it prosperous and, you know, and standing on its own. But I think we need to get it up there because it's going to play a key part in what our vision is going to be for the downtown area if that ever comes to fruition. That's where I'm standing with that.
Deputy Mayor?
Good points on both gentlemen's parts, but I do want to say to Councillor Verbeke, it's true it's coming from a bequest, but that bequest could be used in another area where it would keep us from using taxpayers' dollars. So it's still the same pair of pants that the money's coming out of, it's just a different pocket. That's all. And that is what I was getting at. But you're right, and that's what I wanted to hear some other comments. You're both absolutely right, and I'm fine with it. I just think that when we apply that criteria to another grant request, we need to apply it to this one. So I'm fine with it. I just need it to be said.
Okay, so do I have a motion on the floor for 18,000? We do have a motion on the floor, yep. I think you moved it, didn't you? Discussion on the motion? All in favor and carried. Wow, hey, I took it. I took a shot, so it's only fair. Yeah. So Salvation Army is not there this year, yes? Councillor Jacobs?
I'm sorry, I'd like to speak to that. I'm somewhat curious as to why they had not applied, and I inquired this morning, and it seemed that they had a transition in their, I guess, their upper echelon, and that they did not know or you know, they're such a great organization, and I hope that, you know, we're not going to ignore them because they did miss the train here, but I'd like further input into why, or if there's a reason that it wasn't applied for.
Okay, Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, to Councillor Jacobs, I think I can help you a bit there. When the budget request came out and I looked at that and I realized that they hadn't put in a request for the 2,500, I contacted Captain Brad and asked him, you know, why he hadn't. And at that point in time, I think what it comes down to, it was more of a communication gap than anything else. He was here last year and actually did apply. So I reached out to Laura. We had a conversation, Laura and I. At that point in time, it was too late for them to get it in and be a part of this process. However, Laura's suggestion, if it's all right, Laura, that I explained that if they have a special project that, in fact, they do have one specifically in mind right now, they can come back to us in the first of the year and ask for some help with funding for that specific project. And at that point, again, we will have a chance to address that and either say yes or no to donating. The project they have in mind just happens to be, and I'll explain this to you as well. They're calling it the first word I don't remember, but a closet. And what they do is they want to bring in a large container, put it at the back of the property. So when people make donations to them, things like beds and dressers, currently they have no room to store that stuff. So in the event that there happened to be a fire at someone's house and they needed a bed or a dresser, they've got the storage area. It just happens that container is $2,500 to be able to put it back there with a lock on it. So they're going to deal with that and come back to us in the first of the year with that.
My comment would have been, it's too late, right? Because this is already done deal, and it would be unfair to everybody else who didn't apply. So I was still going to go with no. But Councillor Verbeke?
We're the mayor, through you to Councillor Hammond. I hope the amount doesn't exceed what last year's request was, because then I'll have a problem with that too.
Okay. Councillor Jacobs?
In respect to that, what would be the policy on that? I mean, if somebody just comes and says we need $2,500, we give it to them. I know we've done some of that previously in different occasions, but how would you handle that, Laura? How does that go down? I mean, if we're going to do it, we got to do it here, rather than do
we're
it
not
somewhere
doing it
else,
here.
I guess.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, just to clarify what happened and what happened has always happened with the grant requests, we send out to all former recipients of the grants the applications. We also advertise through the website, through social media, as well as through the paper. So it was out there for everyone to apply. Certainly, it was too late for the Salvation Army to include. It was just a couple weeks ago. It's a decision of council whether or not these grants requests or any in-year approvals would be granted. And certainly we would speak at the senior administration team to decide how we would proceed with that.
Mr. Neufeld?
We try to be, again, fair. We have had situations where I think that requests have come in a day or two late. There have been people who didn't include all of the information at the time of their application. What we're really trying to do here is help these organizations. In this particular case, if council wanted to, I would suggest that if council wanted to provide a grant to in the amount of $2,500, you still have the discretion to do that here today. If that's not the amount that they want, well, then say no, you don't want the $2,500, right? But I think council still has the discretion to do that. Yes, it's going to add to the taxation amount, but it will be a very, very small, insignificant amount. But I think council does have the discretion to do that now if they so chose.
Councillor Hammond?
So in that case, then, having said that, I'd like to make a motion that we allow a grant request of $2,500 to be put towards the Salvation Army.
Supported by Councillor Dunn. Discussion, Councillor Verbeke.
You're opening up the doors again. They missed it. Come back later. So I'm not going to be supporting it, even though we should, but that's the way I feel.
Okay. I'm of the same position. Councillor Jacobs?
I agree with what you're saying, but I look at it from the other point of view. That it's an organization that does a tremendous amount of good things for this town. I mean, you have the firefighters who are out fighting a fire, they're there. You have someone that's displaced, they're there. And that's why I brought it up in the first place. My understanding originally was the fact that they missed the timelines, but I really hate us to take that away from them. Maybe it's not proper. I'm not looking at it from the right point of view, but I think, considering what they do for the community, it's at least that the community can give back to them.
And I don't think any of us are going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
So we all realize that. What Councillor Verbeke said and what I've been saying is the same thing. It's that it was missed, and I think it's unfair to other organizations who missed for us to now do that. But that's just, again, opinion. Deputy Mayor?
I was going to say that I agree with you. Once you set a policy with a timeline, I think you stick to it. Otherwise, it is of no meaning to anyone. So then next year we have, say, the BIA. Well, better use a different one. The LAC, they're late because, Chad's busy or something. So then will we do it again? So I just think that when we put these guidelines in place, it's like a fine or a fee, a late fee. If you set that, then you need to stick with it. It's there for a reason. I'm not trying to be compassionate, but I think if we're going to operate like a business, which really this is what this should be, when we set guidelines, we need to stay with them. So that, I'm going to go with Councillor Beaky on this. I'm sorry, I'm a stickler for that.
So we have a motion on the floor for 2,500, and I know we'll go round circles because we all want to feel the same way. Those in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion is defeated. Not to say that in 2018 we might revisit. Anyway, United Way Centraid, 2280. We heard a great presentation of the success, moved by Councillor Verbicki, support by Councillor Dunn. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion carries. And the last one is the Windsor Symphony Orchestra, and this is an annual contribution we make to keep them coming back to Leamington, moved by the Deputy Mayor, support by Councillor Jacobs. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? And carried. Now, before everybody gets too excited, we have one more budget to approve.
I do believe that the grant request has changed on the bottom, or hasn't it? No, it's
No.
still at the 161?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So I assume, we passed them all individually. Do we need them passed as a whole? Okay. BAA budget. Let's get to it and we're done. I thought that was at 15, wasn't it? No. 14? 14. So tab 14. So do you want to give direction to council on what we're trying to accomplish here? Or Laura, do you want to give direction to council on what we're going to attempt to do on this budget?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Traditionally, we have just passed the BIA levy. As you know, the BIA levy is levied to the downtown area. This is new this year that the BIA budget has been presented to council. In accordance with the Municipal Act, it does require the approval of council, and I believe Brenda has a motion for us, which would include the BIA levy.
Okay. So are we encouraged to discuss their actual budget? Mr. Neufeld?
The purpose of bringing the budget before council for approval is because there are certain things that the BIA is supposed to do. Beautification, for example, as we went through with the training session. So the purpose of council reviewing this is to ensure that the BIA is meeting their mandate, so that they're not taking the money and doing something that is outside of their scope or their mandate. Obviously, their budget is supposed to be for beautification in the BIA area, and that is why council needs to look at it and approve it.
Deputy Mayor?
I see the 20,000 under beautification for parkettes.
So that would be money out of their budget that they had, we discussed this earlier, that they had assigned to match or complement the money they were asking us for in the grant, the 25,000, which we have said we're not going to do.
We're not going to do it, so.
Will they still spend this money? They have every right to do so.
Okay. And, well,
And
yes,
should.
because then that is what they said
Correct.
earlier about going over and above what
What the
municipality does. Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted that, again, to be out there, that we recognize that they had put that in their budget, but they can do with it what they will if we don't.
Correct.
Okay, all right, well, I'll move the budget then, I don't have a problem with the rest of it. I think it's, I looked it over. I mean, it's up to them of what works and what doesn't work with advertising, and they're using their money primarily for beautification and for, what do you call it, advertising, what do you call it, promotion, yes. And really, that was originally the whole idea of BIAs was for that.
Yeah.
And that presentation we had a few weeks ago, to me, took it to a whole new direction that I never thought BIAs were supposed to go to.
Reality, yep. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, that's all well and good. We had the presentation and we found out, but all of this is very self-explanatory and, you know, keeping it fairly simple for us to understand, so I'm fine with it. They're funding it themselves, so, like I said, I make the motion that we approve the budget.
So Ms. Percy has a proper wording for the motion you're about to make.
Worthy Mayor,
Yeah.
point of order.
Tells you what to say.
Shouldn't we have a seconder before there's any further
No,
discussion?
she's going
I'm gonna
to
give you the motion.
actually
Okay.
read the motion in the proper wording.
The 2018 budget for the BIA be approved as presented.
So that was moved by the deputy mayor. Looking for a seconder is Councillor Jacobs. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Closing remarks, if I'm not mistaken. Closing remarks of the 2018 Municipality of Leamington Operating Capital Budgets by the Director of Finance and Business Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that I stand between us and lunch, so I'll make this quick, I promise. First, I would like to thank council for your time and insight and guidance. It was really a team approach that brought this budget together for you and for our municipality. It's sustainable, it's responsible, and we're on the right track. It also shows our commitment to investing in infrastructure, expanding and enhancing the service levels, as well as maintaining our healthy reserve. So thank you for your time and all of your input. So there are 3 recommendations up on the screen. So it is recommended that council, it is recommended the 2018 operating capital budget for the Municipality of Leamington as amended, which proposes a municipal tax levy increase of 1.8% be adopted. That administration be directed to report back to council for final adoption of the 2018 tax rates, inclusive of the impacts resulting from the county and school board rates once those rates are established, and authorization be granted to complete in fiscal year 2018 any 2017 projects that remain or which remain outstanding as of December 31st, 2017, and do not appear in the 2018 budget, so long as the project costs do not exceed previously approved funding amounts or allocations.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Hammond.
Your worship, thank you. I want to close by saying thank you to my fellow councillors. We have some heated debate, but at the end of the day, I think it all works out very well. And I think we'll all be sitting around the dinner table together right shortly. To all of the staff and under Peter's leadership and Brenda and everybody else and Laura and Rob and everyone here, thank you very much for what you do and helping us get through this. And so in a day and a half is pretty good timing. If I can, I would like to ask, and I realize this is a big document, but I would like to have a copy of this next year so that it helps you better understand where some of the requests are coming from for grants. This is Peter's that I have here. This is the grant information document. So and I realize it's extensive, but if you could supply some, I'd like it. I don't know, I can't speak for the rest, but anyway, once again, thank you to each one of you, and to you ladies in the back, thank you very much. Jim?
Councillor Hammond, I got it electronically. I just assumed everybody else in council got it electronically. Okay. Is it okay electronically to you, or you want hard copy? Okay. Because there's a lot of paper. So those who want it electronically, just let Laura know, and we'll look after it there. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. Along the lines, I want to say thank you as well. I know in my first term as council, in the first year I was there, I said, where's the budget? And they said, well, we'll have it shortly. And I think it wound up in March or early April. And I could never understand how you could run a business when you're a quarter of the way through your budget year and you don't know what you have in the bank. But anyway, I really, really, really appreciate that this is happening before year end. It's a first for me, as long as I've been here. I don't know about the ones that have been here longer, but it shows us we're really moving ahead. So I don't give out a lot of kudos too often, but I like to say, Peter, to you and to the staff and to the lovely ladies sitting in the back. I hope that's not an appropriate comment after today, but anyway. I know I got to be careful, go to court now. But anyway, No, seriously, it's been a real pleasure. And, you know, I know we had our cadoos the other day and Christmas and everything else, but it's been a real pleasure to work with this group of people and especially administration. And I feel good and I'm excited, you know, going into the new year. And I think we have great things going for us. And we just keep moving forward. It's great. So thank you, and thank you.
So, yeah, everybody else? Counselor Verbinky?
I'm not going to mention no names, but I want to thank everybody involved. And I'm really surprised that we already know that the next budget is going to be scheduled before October the 22nd. Because Councillor Hammond wants a copy of the proposals before the election. So we already know that you're going to have it done before October, and I appreciate it. Or Councillor Hammond's running again. That's his first initiative. So thank you very much for everything. My first two budgets here, I did turn it down because I didn't agree with some of the stuff, but there's no way I can turn this one down. So thank you for everything, and it's been great working with you.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor?
I think the animated conversation we have around this table is a good thing. Whether or not we agree or disagree is really moot. It's the fact that we do and we can discuss. And for the most part, we're friends, if you will. We work well together. No, we're not grudge holders. I think we're actually one of the best groups I've ever worked with. I will. What's the matter?
I don't know, that deflection off the top of my head.
Oh, sorry. Some days you just can't work with the material that you have. That's all I'm gonna say. And in all of it, like, I was not in my heated debate. I was not trying to vilify anybody, or the only person was the person out there and what they said about us, about our organization and what we do, and even what we said about CFTV. We acknowledge that we need that service. We're just saying that we're getting pressure from the outside that we need more. So none of what is said here is meant to be derogatory towards anybody. And many times we engage in this just to get conversation that we know is already coming from the outside. We get it put out. So anyway, with that in mind, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for making this the Keep It Simple, silly version. It makes it easy for lay people, for non-professionals, if you will, to understand it and to be able to apply it to what we need, and to all of the departments. And the fact that we can ask the questions that we do. And to my colleagues, I appreciate the kibitzing back and forth. I appreciate the fact that you ask my opinion. That means a lot. And that we can disagree and still be friends, Bill. And
That's why I'm between them.
yeah. But really, that's key, right? Is the fact that we do get along and we respect each other. It's so important to say, and that goes for staff and administration as well. So thank you for making this an interesting and an enjoyable process.
Good. Anyone else? Good? Okay. All right, and me too. I mean, it's all been set up here. I can't thank Peter and Laura and the directors and all the staff members from finance and everyone else that were involved in this process. As Councillor Jacob said, we used to wait a long time for these budgets, and it was always a little bit mind-bending to think that we'd be talking about the money we're going to spend in the year that we're already in. So this was superior, and to come back with a 1.8% increase and do all the things that we're talking about doing, incredible. So before we go to adjourn, pardon? I know we need a motion, but no, I'm not. I said before we go to adjourn, I thought I'd have a little bit of fun this year and see who could win the contest to be the first one at the lunch table. So I recorded how many times you actually raised your hands to address the issues we discussed in the grants. It was a very tight race. Coming in first place, though, so first to the table, is our deputy mayor with 17 points. followed by Councillor Hammond with 15, and it tails off quickly from there. Councillor Jacobs' disappointment, total disappointment, based on yesterday's efforts, only raised only raised his hands 12 times, and the rest of us did much better than that. So, I thank all of you. It was a lot of fun. This was a good good effort at budget. Well, those who worked the hardest, right? Anyway, again, thanks to everybody and thanks to council members. Motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, for the 3 recommendations on the Councillor Dunn and Councillor Hammond, all in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Jacobs, Councillor Verbicki, all in favor? And carried. We're the 4:30 supper. Yeah.